So, okay. All that said, I'm glad we really talked about that. I think that was really good. I want to spend some time talking about realtor safety because, as we're here in spring selling season, we've got lots of listing appointments, lots of buyers, that we're working with, and I want to just kind of have a focus. So we're going to talk a little bit quickly on realtor safety. I'm going to give you some pointers because we are working on some IRL events and real life events. And one of those upcoming events, I want to have one of our local police officers come in and do a training class for us, a more fully in-depth one. So working on planning that. But in the meantime, I think this is really urgent information that I want to get to you guys out. I did this presentation a couple of years ago. It may have been like 4 years ago for you guys. So many of you guys may not have even been here when I did this presentation. So it may be new to you. So that's great because I just want to make sure everybody is on the same page because we love you too much for you to put yourself at risk. Like I said at the beginning of this call, if you weren't on there at the beginning of the call, there is absolutely no deal that is worth risking your life. Period. I can just say the whole safety conversation, I could just say that and be fine with it, right? So here's the deal. I'm gonna share my screen here for a second. Okay, cool. I'm playing with this new toy. So I took my old presentation and I snazzed it up a little bit just for fun. So this is a cool little toy. Let me make it full screen though, because there we go. Okay, cool. So I just want to start with just the importance of realtor safety. And a lot of it comes down to this not being something you just do spastically. This is not something you just kind of go, oh, shoot, I need to do that. This is something you do it methodically. You have a habit. So if you have a buyer lead or a seller lead, before you go out and meet them, there are things you can do to protect yourself. And I want you to do those things before you go out and meet with them. I want you to protect yourself. There's tools that we have available to us from our association memberships I'm going to tell you about. You may not have even heard about these. So this is an important conversation for us to have today. So let's see, how do I click forward on this? There we go. Okay, so risks. Obviously, if you're putting yourself in isolated environments, you're going to properties by yourself. Sometimes these houses, I think, Robert may have had one that, where did he go? He was on for a second. He has a listing right now. I don't even know if it had power when it was listed. The thing is, you got to put yourself into safe positions. So, and let me just preface this conversation too. This is not just a conversation at the women, okay? Male realtors get attacked too. Male realtors can end up in the wrong side of town. Brady, remember that one lead, that one listing appointment you went on, and that very, very nice guy was kind of a grandfather to you, and he says, hey buddy, you're not supposed to be in this area. And he just knew. He was like, I don't think this is a safe place for you to be. So there,
I
you don't,
remember.
you remember
Yeah,
that?
I
Because
remember. And unfortunately, my judgment wasn't great. It was Friday at 5:30 too, so it was like, what did I
yeah,
do? Yeah, he was
yeah.
like, scoot along.
Yes, he was like,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
So don't put yourself into a position where you're in the wrong side of town. Look up that area, and obviously we have to be careful with how we're doing this because we're not trying to break fair housing laws and things like that. We have to delicately do this, but again, you have to protect yourself too. So you have to be aware of what that environment is and make proper judgments. There are things you can do to protect yourself, so just be aware, okay? When you're meeting with clients that you don't know, go ahead and do those background checks and things like that. Um, Also, just be aware, like, of how you're presenting yourself. If you're going to the lower income areas, don't go flaunting, Rolls Royces in those areas, right? Don't go driving your Mercedes into those areas because you're just going to draw attention to yourself and make yourself a target, right? So be considerate of those things, of just kind of being aware. Use a little bit of your EQ and be aware of where you're going so that you're putting yourself into a safe place and not making yourself into a target. Okay. um Also, things that you can do: take some karate classes or some kind of agent safety classes. I know at EXPCon, if you guys go to Miami, they always have an agent safety class. Yeah, C3, are they teaching that in any kind of online format? I feel like there was an online format, but I may be just totally imagining that. Remember that agent safety class that they were teaching at EXPCon? There's a company that EXP was bringing in for that self-defense class.
Yeah, I'll take a look into it.
Yeah, curious about that. But there are things that you can do to get yourself more aware. Hell, I mean, at the very least, go on Instagram. There's all kinds of people who are doing personal safety videos. Dial yourself in on some of those safety techniques. I mean, like I teach Noah how to get his hand out of a wrist grab, stuff like that. We practice that. I grab his hand really hard and teach him how to break out of things like that. So learn some of those things. Um, because you can do things now. Obviously pepper spray and tasers and things like that, you can use those noise making devices like the horn things. Those are also very good things to have. There's necklaces that you can get that have little pendants on them that you can press the button and it'll send out a safety signal. There's lots of ways that you can protect yourself on that. Just be careful, like if you're using pepper spray and stuff, to make sure that you know how to use it and it doesn't become a weapon against you. That's the other thing I would say. Make sure you're really comfortable with that. Marketing. When you're marketing yourself, there are some things that you need to consider. So make yourself, if you're doing social media, for example, make your presence really professional looking. Don't do really provocative poses and things like that, because sometimes I see that with agents where they're doing some of the I don't know, like a little bit showing a lot of stuff, and that may be part of where you're like, hey, I'm the sexy agent, but what you're also doing is you're kind of putting yourself out there as a target, so they know if I can get a showing with that person, I could get her alone in a house and maybe take advantage of that situation. So don't put yourself into those positions where you kind of put yourself as a target. So just be mindful of that. Open houses. Okay, when you're doing open houses, first and foremost, oh my gosh, please do not host that open house by yourself. Okay, please do not host that open house. If there's one safety thing that you take away from today, don't do it alone. All right, use the partner system. Make sure that your sellers remove all their valuables and their stuff is safe. Make sure you understand how to get out of the house, but have a backup plan, not just the front door. Because if somebody, if you're in there by yourself and somebody, kind of gets you to the front door and they block that off, where's the back door? Do you know how to get there and get out quickly? And then make sure too that you're, making sure that you have an easy way to get out. So if there's like a deadbolt on the back door, make sure it's unlocked so that you can get out, not looking for a key, right? So be careful of all that stuff and be thoughtful. This is a preparation thing you can do to put yourself in a safe situation. After open houses, this is not necessarily a personal safety, but make sure that you go around the house. This is safety for your clients. Make sure you go around the house and check all the windows, check all the doors, check all the rooms, all the closets. Make sure nobody's hiding in the house, because there have been times where people will hide in the house or they'll leave a window unlocked so they can come and get into that house later. So protect your sellers in that way. Okay. All right, cool. And obviously when you're doing that, make sure you're kind of on self-defense, because now there's nobody walking through the house. I think sometimes too, when things get a little bit awry too, is when you're trying to take the open house stuff down and you're trying to close up and that random person walks in and they kind of catch you off guard. So don't let your guard down then either. Communication safety. So obviously make sure before you go out for showings, going out to a listing appointment, going out for an open house, make sure your phone is fully charged. Make sure you've got good cell coverage. Make sure that you're aware of your surroundings while you're talking on the phone. So if somebody calls you, make sure you're not just like totally involved in this phone conversation and you have no idea what's going on around you. This also, just as a kind of safety thing, and this, something I talked to my daughter about, because she used to go out, she would like to go out for a run or take the dog for a walk or whatever, put in the headphones and she's just jamming out. And I'm like, hey, when that guy walks up behind you and takes advantage of that situation because you had no idea that that person was even behind you because you were jamming out to your music, that's not a good thing. So you need to be able to have your full awareness, even when you're walking in the park. A situation happened about a month ago or so. She was walking through, and I had actually just told her this, and she was walking through the park area. We have a green belt by our house, and it has a huge sidewalk. Some weird, trippy person drove their car out onto the sidewalk and would almost hit her. She was bending over to pick up the dog's poop, and they almost ran over her because they were driving on the dang sidewalk. So you do have to be aware of what's going on. So if you feel like you're in an uncomfortable situation, get on the phone with someone, your husband, your wife, your business partner, one of us. Get on the phone with somebody and be talking to somebody while you're doing that, because oftentimes the criminals will not take people over if you're already on the phone, because they know that you've got somebody kind of on guard right there. Another thing too, when you're handing out business cards to people, be aware that when you stick your wrist out there, that's a grab, right? So do you know how to get out of that grab, right? So be careful, with giving your wrist away to people. Let's see, what's some other things? So managing your client expectations, protecting your family, keep your stuff private. Don't become best friends with the people. It's just, be aware of that. Couples. So a lot of times, I've actually had some friends who have had this happen where a couple is coming to go meet them at a vacant house, meet an agent. And you think, oh, it's a husband and a wife or, whatever, coming to meet you at a house. Well, guess what? Those two people actually were criminals coming to overtake. Sometimes people get a little crazy. They have things against realtors because they think realtors are rich. They think we're all rolling in millions of dollars because that's what we put out on social media, that we're all successful, right? So they sometimes will attack in couples. So don't let your guard down just because you've got a couple there. This is where Charles becomes your best friend, because if you get those people into a buyer consultation before you go show them houses, we've already done background checks and things with them. We know they're serious and they're not trying to just harm you. If they're trying to rush you into going and seeing this house, oh my God, I got to go see it, and they won't do that step, then you might question, something might be up. Okay. Showings. Plan your showings carefully, and then make sure that your husband or somebody knows where you're going and where you're supposed to be. So when I was showing buyers, I always, even if I'm showing 13 houses, I always tell my husband, here is the route of all the houses that I'm supposed to be at each time. That way he knows all the addresses, because if I just say, hey, I'm going out for showings with Sarah, then he has no idea what houses I'm at. So if I went missing, he has no idea how to find me, right? Or how to tell the police where to find me. So, or even where to start looking. So be aware of that. Okay. So have your safety partner, have somebody know where you're going. Okay. Use technology, right? Life 360, Waze, whatever, have somebody tracking your whereabouts, right? Don't do this alone. Okay. Do your buyer consultation in a public place. Meet them at a coffee shop. Don't meet them at the house. That's why, Cliff and I were talking about this the other day about, how Zillow was such a crazy place, because Zillow forced you to go show them at a house and try to go meet people at a house without doing any of the pre-work. So it just basically, it puts you in contact with people that are just very, very random. Okay. Forewarn, if you're with MetroTex or if you're with CCAR, Tether, those are technology tools that you can use to do a quick background check to look people up. So it'll tell you, oh my God, this person has 32 past history criminal records. That's something that should send, spider sense. That should send your spidey sense going off. Okay. So please take the time to look those things up, and don't put yourself in an uncomfortable situation that you didn't have to because you didn't take the time. Preparation goes back to what I was saying at the beginning. Preparation, right? Okay. Proper, safety showing protocols. Drive in separate cars. This is not the old days when you put people in your cars. So take your own car. Another thing too with parking, let me just mention this, is don't park in the driveway of the house. Because what happens when you park in the driveway of the house is that people can come and block your car. They'll park right behind you where you cannot get out. So park on the street where you can get to your car. Okay. Also check for IDs. Tell them my brokerage, blame it on us. I don't care. My brokerage requires that I check your ID before I show any houses. So I need to get a picture of your ID and I got to text it to my boss. Text me driver's licenses. I don't care. Just text me the driver's licenses, text them to C3, text them to Steve, whoever you want to text them to, but share those check-ins. We're all here to support you and make sure you're safe. If you're working with somebody you don't know yet, please, get that driver's license, because if they're a bad actor before you go in the house and they don't want to give you their driver's license, probably something is up. Okay. So trust your instincts on that. Okay. And then obviously just normal personal safety, right? Don't wear a whole bunch of expensive jewelry on your appointments. Maintain your space. If you're carrying a purse, leave it in your car or lock it up in your trunk. Don't make it, something that somebody can steal. And be vigilant. Even when people seem like they're really sweet and kind, they will lure you into closets. Another thing too, when you're showing, make sure you're behind people. Never walk in front of them, because if you walk in front of them, they can shove you into a room, shove you into a closet or whatever, and do whatever they're going to do. So you always walk behind them so that you know where they're going. Okay. So that's another safety tip if you hadn't heard that one before. Okay. When you're walking into homes, here's another thing. I've encountered this where people are actually in the house and they're not supposed to be in the house. So do ring the doorbell when you get in there, and say, hello, I'm here for a showing. That way you don't freak out people who are maybe not supposed to be in that house. Maybe give them an opportunity to run out the back door or whatever. But, for your safety, you don't want to have a surprise encounter on that. Always be aware and avoid the confined spaces. Don't let people get you, into a closet and things like that. Attics are bad for that too. So don't, go climbing into attics with people you don't know, right? Oh, I just want to see the air conditioning system. Great, here you go. Go up there. You climb that ladder. I'm not climbing that ladder. So, and then, create a danger phrase. What is some alert that you could send? You could text or something, talk about, hey, I got another client that I got to meet in a few minutes. I really got to get out of here. Find ways to practice your exit strategies so you can exit. If you feel like things are not going right, get the hell out of Dodge, right? Be aware, right? Get out of that situation and trust yourself. If your spider sense is going off, trust yourself. If you got the EBGBs, just trust yourself, okay? Use that technology, whether it's a bracelet, whether it's Life 360, whether it's an app, like Noonlight was one I used to use. You can just while you're doing the showing, you just hold down the button while you're doing the showing. If you take your thumb off of it, it will alert your, for 3 seconds or something like that, or 10 seconds. If you take your thumb off of it, meaning that phone got knocked out of your hands, then it's going to alert your safety group of where you're at. So there are really cool tools that you can use to protect yourself and not be that sitting duck. And as I said, no deal is worth risking your life. So please, please, please stay safe in everything you do. All right. So quick, I know we're just 2 minutes over time, but I want to just open it up. Anybody have any questions or anything that they want to add to that?
I'll usually lock the door behind me too. Like if it's a showing and the clients are inside, I usually lock the door to make sure that nobody else trails in.
Oh, really good point. Yes, because sometimes people will see a realtor opening the door for their clients and they'll be like, oh, I can go in too. And they'll just kind of follow you in. And you don't really want people doing that. So when you're showing your buyers a house, uh, lock the front door behind you so other people don't come in. Good tip, Britton.
And bring the key inside with you.
Yeah, and keep the key inside. Don't leave it in the lockbox. There's a question in the chat. Can you address a question regarding the buyer rep agreement and commission? I had a buyer's agent with EXP tell me that EXP trained us to put TBD for the BAC. She also said her seller will determine the BAC based on their offer. Okay, so that's not an agent safety question, but let me come back to that. We will definitely answer that here in just a second. So let me pin that one for a second. Let's stick on the agent safety. Brandon, did you have a suggestion?
And yes, if you have an iPhone, if you press the power button 5 times, it'll start an emergency call countdown. So if you don't get back to your phone, then it's automatically gonna call for help.
Yeah, I think Android has something similar to that. Like you press it 3 times or something, like it sets off a panic alarm. I forgot about that. Good point. Very good. Anybody else have any good tips?
Hey Rachel, did you talk about forewarn?
I did. We talked about forewarn for MetroText. So MetroText offers that as a free service. And then for CCAR, if you're a member of CCAR, it's called Tether. It's a free service. Member benefits. Check out those peeps and make sure you got background checks on them. Any other good tips?
Rachel, did you say tether or heather?
Tether, Tether, like you're tethering it to a rope or something.
Oh, got it. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, if you go in and look on the member benefits, that's one of the member benefits there.